A hint video for homework 2. We'll just get straight on with it. It should help you if you get stuck. Question 1. You're supposed to express root 75 in a simpler form. In order to simplify any surd, you need to split it up into two new surds. Now, I'll do a different example and hopefully you'll get the idea. So if I said root 40, for example, root 40. Now I want to split this up into two new surds, and the two numbers I pick will multiply to make 40, but what I'm going to do is pick the biggest square number I can think of that divides into 40 to help me. Now, the biggest number I can think of is going to be 4, so I've picked a square number on purpose. You'll see why. Root 4, root 10. Now, 4 times 10 is 40, so that definitely works, and the reason for picking 4 is because root 4 is 2, because 4 is a square number. So actually I end up with 2 root 10. And that's because this root 4 here turns into this 2, because root 4 is 2. So that's example 1. I'll do another. I'll just get rid of this. Right, so we'll do one more example. So if I said root 160. Now square root of 160. Now, the biggest square number I can think of this time that fits into that is 16, because 16 times 10 is 160. So actually I can split this up into root 16, root 10. And they don't all have root 10 in them, I've just happened to have done that in my examples. Root 16 is 4, so actually I can simplify it to 4 root 10. That's the answer there. Now, it might be useful if I did a third example where it doesn't have root 10 in it, so I'll just rub this out. So I'll do one final example, example 3. And if I said root 8, I wanted to simplify that. Now, the biggest square number I can think of that divides into 8 is 4, so I could write root 4, root 2. And of course, just like the first example, root 4 is 2. So this root 4 here turns into 2. So actually, I end up with 2 there, and then the root 2 at the end. So there's a simplified surd. Now that technique will work on root 75 in the question here. You need to do the same thing. You just need to think about the biggest square number you can that divides into 75, and you should be able to do that question. On to the next one. Same again. I'm going to express 5 root 27 in the form n root 3. I'm going to simplify. Now you do that by working with the root 27. The 5 is going to stay at the front, so I'll just leave the 5 there for now. And then root 27 needs to turn into 2 new surds. Well, one of them is going to be 3, root 3, because it says that in the question there. It's just your job to work out what the other one is. Now the other one that goes under there is a square number, think about it, which means that when you then square root it, you'll end up with a whole number. You then need to just tidy up this bit here, because you'll end up with a number multiplied by a number. Whatever your answer is to that is the value of n. And that is a slightly awkward question. Come and see me if you need more hints. Another example. Part B. This is the first example of rationalising a denominator in this homework. I will do a separate example down at the bottom here. If I want to rationalise the denominator of, let's say, 3 over root 2, the way you do this is by multiplying the top and bottom of the fraction by the surd that is on the bottom of the fraction. So if I multiply the top by root 2, I must do the same underneath here. Now, if I then tidy that up, I'll do the denominator first. Root 2 times root 2, if you think about it, is root 4, which is 2. So that's tidied up there, and actually that is now rational. I've just rationalised the denominator. And then the top, you can't do much with that. 3 lots of root 2 is just written like that. Now if you use that same technique on the actual question, you should, the question up here, there, you should be able to solve that problem. Moving along to question 3. Now, I'm going to give you the answer to part A, and then hopefully you should be able to use that technique to answer part B. The answer to part A, the perimeter of a square is 20. What is the area? Well, if we've got some square and its perimeter, all four sides added together, are 20. If you do 20 divided by 4, the sides must be 5. That's 5, add 5, add 5, add 5 is 20. Now I know its sides are 5. If I just clear things up a little bit like that, it's a square, so its area must be 25. So actually I'm giving a big hint there because I'm giving you the actual answer. So the area is 25, that's the answer to part A. Part B works the same way. It's up to you to think to yourself, I've got a square, and its four sides add up to that. So you need to work out what one side would be, in the same way I did on this example here. Once you've done that, you could do length times width to work out the area of that square. On to question 4. Rationalising the denominator. It's exactly like the earlier question on that, so if you just watch that example back, you should be fine. And then the final question, primes 1 to 30. Just look at your list online or the list you've got in your book and write them down. Just remember one's not prime. Triangle numbers. I'm going to draw a little diagram. There's the first one. There's the second one. Then you've got that diagram there. It's pretty rough and ready, but hopefully that'll trigger your memory about how that works. Just write down the first 7 of them. Part C doesn't mean 6 times 3, it means 6 times 6 times 6. And I have asked you to learn your cube numbers. Hopefully you'll start recognising them the more you calculate with them. Again, a little hint on part D, it doesn't mean 14 times 2, it means 14 times by itself. And then part E, there are 2 answers. I'm going to leave you to think about that yourself. A lot of people will just write down one answer. You need to think carefully about what you square to make 25. And then last but not least, if you write it out on full, -2 multiplied by -2 multiplied by -2, just be careful with the sign of your answer. Think about what happens when you multiply a negative by a negative, and then what might happen if you multiply it by another negative. That's it. I've gone through it fairly quick. I hope you succeed on these questions. If you get stuck, you need to come and see me, and I'll be more than happy to help you. That's it.